In the name of Amen the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord, and Amen we trust as the Republic of Mentellect. The true 144,000 is being gathered in this day and time, the mentalists. Menzeka Aminun to all of my mentalist brothers and sisters out there, registered members of the Republic of Mentellect, and to all future mentalists who have yet to find their way home to Amen's covenant, which is the Republic of Mentellect. I send greetings out to you, and I send peace out to you in our Mentelian language by saying to you, Menzeka Aminun. Good evening. I'm your host, the intellectual Nuben Menkares. This is Mentellect Radio, and tonight we're going to be exposing the Israelite lie that the ancient Egyptians are tribal Africans. See, because you Israelites, you've been espousing and pushing out this nonsense about the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Kemites, right? Ancient Nubians, all the ones who were in rulership in that land, you know, in the Middle East, or what's now being currently called the Middle East. Right, you've been saying that they are the tribal Africans, the Neolithic or the Nihilistic or the Nihilistic tribal Africans, the ones who look like Manute Bol and Alek Wek and got the scars on their face and do the scarring and things like that. A lot of these Israelites are sitting around here telling that lie, right, that the so-called ancient Egyptians are those people, the tribal Africans, right, the ones with the BB buckshot hair, right, whose hair don't really grow, right? The ones who, you know, basically, like I said, scar themselves up and put tribal markings in their face and burn themselves and brand themselves and all kind of crazy stuff the tribal Africans do, right? They said, and you know, the ones who are really tall, the ones who tend to be tall and things like this, because I heard a certain, well, like I said, I heard the Israelites said it in general. That's part of their doctrine. They say, oh, yeah, the ancient Egyptians was those damn Africans, them tribal Africans, them doodle-eating Africans, as they call them. You know, the BB buckshot-haired Africans, like I said, the ones who you could tell are not like us so-called bronze people, us so-called black people, a.k.a. bronze people here in the Americas, South Americas, and alike. And I'm here to tell you, that's false. That is absolutely false. The Nihilistic, as you call them, the Nihilistic, which is really short for the word Nile, which came from the white man, and Nihilistic tribal Africans are not the ancient Egyptians. That is way off. One of you Israelites out, y'all had the nerve to say, and this is somebody who has a YouTube channel. I'm not going to mention his name, but he said, yeah, you know, the ancient Egyptians are the Nihilistic tribal Africans that look like Manute Bol and Akeem Olajuwon, those people, those Africans and whatnot, those tribal Africans, those are the same people and whatnot that, you know, the ancient Egyptians, you know, they were known for being very tall people, and they were into scarring and deification and scarring themselves like the Neolithic Africans, and that's false. I said on the first page, bring me forth proof that the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Kemites, was into cutting themselves and scarring themselves. That is a tribal African thing. They did not do that. The ancient Egyptians did not do that. You can look at the images of whatever the Catholic Church didn't hide or take or put under the Vatican. You can look at the images of the ancient Egyptians. I put one up tonight, and in the split screen you see that the ancient Egyptian, which is Queen T, ancient Kemite ruler queen, right? She looks exactly like Michelle Obama. The eyes, the lips, everything. She looks just like Michelle Obama. She just got her hair in an afro, Queen T. Now, again, I said the so-called tribal Africans, they don't grow long hair. They got the little BB buckshot thick hair. Their hair is tighter than a damn lamb's behind. They got the really thick hair. So when you see the people in those areas, in those regions, who still live there, because it's funny how you so-called Israelites, you never talk about the Sudanese with the afros, the ones with the braids, the ones who still live in Egypt, who look just like so-called bronze people, who looks like the bronze race of the so-called black people here in America today. Mustafa Hefni and all these people who if the Israelites seen this brother, right, who was born in Egypt, family go back, born and bred in Egypt, because they don't talk about the bronze Egyptian brothers and sisters out there, the bronze-skinned people, you know, who look like they could fit into your family. You would call these people Israelites if you saw them walking around in America, that those are the real descendants, and we are the descendants of those ancient Kemites, ancient Egyptians, Sumerians, and the Olmecs. We are the descendants of those people. I don't know where you Israelites get this nonsense, but well, I already know, and I'm gonna go into it in a second. Where you get this nonsense from that the so-called tribal Africans who don't look nothing like the ancient Egyptians, where you get this connection that they're the same people. That's false. False narrative that y'all giving. And you claim, because like I said, you see with Queen T at, and you see plenty of images of bronze skin, reddish brown skin, ancient Egyptians, aka Kemites, with afros and braids and things like that. Those are not the traits of tribal Africans. The tribal Africans tend to be very, very dark skinned, damn near black skinned, with BB buckshot hair. And like they did point out, they do the scarification, the so-called African, where they do the tribal markings. They mark their face and burn themselves. You never seen that on the ancient Egyptians' faces. Please point it out. I dare one of you Israelites to come up here and show where the so-called ancient Egyptians were scarring themselves or cutting into themselves or doing rituals like that. Be saying stuff you talk out of your head because, see, why the so-called Israelites don't want to claim that so-called black people here, bronze people here in America, are the descendants of those ancient Kemite people, those ancient Kemites, Nubians, and Olmecs, because it don't fit their narrative of the Bible. If we say that the ancient Egyptians or the so-called Kemites are the black people here in America, the so-called black people or bronze people here in America are their descendants, then it doesn't work with their Israelite narrative. See, because the Israelites, according to the Bible, were supposed to be in bondage under the Egyptians, right? So you can't say, okay, well, we was in bondage to each other. We had ourselves in slavery. So, of course, they don't want to say, they can't say that the ancient Egyptians are Arabs and all that, because it's very clear that they are bronze-skinned people or so-called black people. So what's the quickest thing they say just to maintain the whole Israelite story in the Bible? Because really they caught up on the biblical narrative more than the actual history and the fact of what is there, which you can clearly see. They're more caught up on being Israelites in the Bible because they place so much emphasis on the Bible. And again, they would rather be connected to the characters in the Bible, which they are told are holy people, special people, rather than to be the ancient Egyptians or the ancient Kemites. See, they more caught up on that. But see, the story couldn't work that way if they said that, oh, our people are the ancient Egyptians or the ancient Kemites too. So they had to make the ancient Egyptians the Africans. Oh, that's the tribal Africans. The guy had the nerve to say, when he was pointing out, that he said, I'm trying to tell you, brothers and sisters, y'all not the ancient Egyptians. You lying. You're a liar. Because I'm gonna just prove logically and factually that we are the ancient Egyptians. Again, I pointed to the afros and the braids. Your so-called tribal Africans are not known for afros and braids. If they do have afros and braids, it's because they mixed in with us. But your real tribal Africans, like the Dikembe Mutombos, Manute Bowls, Elekweks, those tribal Africans who are into scarification, the ones who do all those weird rituals and stuff like that, like I said, they don't grow here. They don't grow afros. They don't grow braids. You could clearly see that the ancient Egyptians had braids, afros, everything. You could see they came in many ranges of complexion, from reddish bronze skin, reddish bronze, which is, again, not the complexion of your Africans, reddish bronze, beige complexion, which y'all would call light skin, beige complexion, reddish bronze, all shades of bronze, golden bronze, right? Or what you call light skin, beige, to the darkest bronze, the darkest bronze skin. You could tell. And you can see what, like I said, the Israelites don't point out the fact that the ancient Egyptians, our people, had the Africans. You could tell clearly who the Africans was. They had the Africans with the BB buckshot hair and bondage. They had ropes around their neck. They had ropes around the so-called Caucasian people's necks, and they had ropes around the Asian people with the Asian people necks, because they had them in slavery. They had the Caucasians in slavery, they had the Asians in slavery, and they had the Africans in slavery. You can look that up. I'm gonna put it on my wall on Facebook, and you could clearly see that the African, the tribal African, is not the same as the ancient Egyptian, the bronze-skinned man. He's not the same as the bronze-skinned man. You can clearly see that. You know our complexion. We range from bronze or light bronze to dark bronze, reddish bronze, and we range in all shades of bronze. We're bronze skinned people. We're not black skinned. You understand that? We're bronze skinned people. You see it right on the wall. Even the darkest of the bronze skinned people, we don't look like the so called Africans. You can clearly see it in their features. You could tell an African when you see them. When you look at the ancient Egyptians on the wall, you could tell that they look just like American black people. They look exactly like American black people. So-called American and South American black people looks just like them. Just like the Olmecs looks like them people as well. It's all the same people that travel all over the world. Your tribal Africans, they don't travel. They stay in one place. And I got a question. If you say the so-called Neolithic tribal Africans are the ancient Egyptians, then how come the so-called Neolithic tribal Africans ain't built no pyramids? Because you're talking about a culture and a history that's thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, where they was building pyramids, set up governments. How do you go from having a society that's thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, right? And these people never went into slavery. These people didn't go into slavery, right? They were free. They just left from one part of the Middle East, according to what y'all say, to another part. They was never in slavery, because you would say people like Barack Obama and them, they're the descendants of the ancient Egyptians. How did they become tribal Africans then? Because if you had thousands and thousands of years of this history of building pyramids and setting up these societies, how come you don't have it now? How come the Neolithic tribal Africans don't have it now? Where'd it go? I want some of you Israelites to call in and tell me that. Where did that culture go? If you claiming that, that these was the original people, and that the Africans are the real Egyptians and whatnot, where did the pyramid culture go? Because these people wasn't thrown into bondage. You could have used the idea, or you could have used the argument that, they was in bondage and they was forced to get into a religion and they didn't know no better. And when I'm gonna take your call, I see you 253 and 612. I'm gonna take your call, but I'm gonna just go ahead and make my point before I take your calls. Where did the culture go? Where did the culture go? You ask so-called tribal Africans about Amun or those gods in Egypt, or you ask them about pyramids, they looking at you like you crazy. And the Africans are known for being carrying oral tradition, custom. They pass things down to each other. So how come they ain't built no pyramids? How come they ain't built no pyramids? How come they ain't replicate those cities that they ran out of, or that they got pushed out of? How come they didn't replicate those cities? I'm gonna take a call. I want to hear some. I hope it's some Israelites on the line. 253.
How you doing, Nubin?
How you doing?
Most definitely not an Israelite, but you told me to come in on. You told me to call in today, tell you what my teacher said, and I did not ask him what you told me to ask him, because he came to me and asked me, like, what are these people? Where do you meet up at? Where do you meet them at? I said they're all over the world, and then he was like, oh, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better, because I thought I was afraid after high school you would leave to the middle of nowhere to dress like other people and do what everybody else does. I'm like, no, that's why it's not a cult. And he was like, yeah, I see now.
Mm-hmm. But did you ask him when I told you to ask him?
No, I did not ask him that.
What did you gotta ask him? You scared? Ask him. See what he tell you.
No, I didn't ask him, because I explained to him why it wasn't a cult. And then he said that he sees now.
But you should ask him, since he's on the thing of cult. You should ask him, do the Hasidic Jews, who have communities all over the country and all over the world, and going from Israel all over, does he consider them a cult? You should ask him that. See what he tell you.
All right.
Yeah, ask him that. So, all right.
He
wanted to be nosy. He wanted to be nosy and find out where we meet up at. None of his business where we meet up at. They always want to know something and whatnot. Like I said, when you get a chance, ask him the question. All right?
All right. I had told him to call in today, too. I told him he could call in, so I don't know if he was going to or not, but I had told him he could.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay. All right, bro. I'm take another call. 612.
Yes, sir. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to clarify. This is something that the Hebrew Israelites miss, because a lot of them, I find, don't actually read the Bible. They just simply repeat what one another tell each other. And even in the Bible, it makes a clear distinction between the Egyptians and what the Bible characterizes as the Cushites. And it even the Bible even describes the Cushites as the tall, dark-skinned, smooth-skinned people, and it distinguished them from the Egyptians itself. And so, because many of the Hebrew Israelites, number one, haven't studied the Bible in any depth, and they don't understand history, they totally get this all wrong. And a lot of them also get deceived by when they see pictures of times when the Cushites conquered the Egyptians, and they would be pharaohs that look Cushite. They would think, oh, you see, that shows it. But what they don't understand is that the Cushites came north, and there'd be times where they would go to war and they would conquer Egypt for a moment and whatnot. So because they don't know the history of the region, they fall for this stuff all the time. And I see this all the time. And I call this is a prime example of when you have identity crisis and you just want to grasp onto something to give you credibility other than just taking confidence in yourself. People do this stuff and they don't actually do research and study. They just make these emotional decisions on what makes them feel good versus what's reality,
Exactly, and they said one of the guys was gonna say, well, the ancient Egyptians were known for being very tall people like the Africans. First of all, you got a lot of ancient Egyptian Kemites who they ranged in height from 5 feet to 6 feet, 7 feet. And like I said, just like you got so-called black people or bronze people here in America today, you had some of the pharaohs who was 5 feet and whatnot. So they making that up. The so-called Egyptians were not known for being very tall people, on a wide scale. I mean, you had tall people here, and just like you have amongst so-called black people here today, and like amongst every race, you'll have somebody who is, high, in 7 foot or something like that, aberration or something like that. But they try to make it seem like they was known for being extremely tall people. That's a lie, man. But the reason why they do that is because the Israelites are really nothing but Christians, and they are heavily into the Bible and things like that, and they want to be the chosen people, the so-called Israelites of the Bible. But what they don't understand is a lot of their so-called stories and the things that they do within their Israelite teachings is clearly ancient Kemetic stuff. It's ancient Kemetic customs. It's ancient Egyptian
and
customs that they do.
They're not even Christians. They all the Hebrew Israelite thing is just a rehash of the British Hebrew Israelite cult. And I was really fascinated to find how all the same arguments that Hebrew Israelites make is the exact same arguments that the British Hebrew Israelites make. Because remember, the British, at one time, they were enslaved by the Romans. And they made the same arguments about the Romans being the Edomites and all that. The exact same argument. And the modern black Hebrew Israelite thing is they just took the British Hebrew Israelite cult and they just stuck black people on top of the name. That's all they did. They just repeated
that. Well, that's what they good at doing. Because if you ever notice the Israelites will always talk about so-called black people in antiquity in Europe and things like that, which there's no argument there because black people were all over the world. That is true. But why do they only focus on black people in Europe and things like that and call them Israelites? But then you'll turn around and call the Egyptians Africans and want to make it seem like they bad people. They focus on the European. They also focus on the Greeks and whatnot being Israelites, but they make sure, they make sure they jump on top of whatever the so-called Caucasians claimed as being white and things like that. They jump on top of that and again and claim that history again. I'm not arguing with that because bronze people were all over the planet. So yeah, I do acknowledge that we was the first Europeans. We was in Europe first. We was in Asia first. He was in what you call Africa.
I'm not saying that the Europeans were black. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the whole religious system of the Hebrew Israelites, the black Hebrew Israelites, their cult is just the people in England had the exact same cult, and it was the British Hebrew-Israelite cult, and that what these black Hebrew-Israelite cults are doing is they just stole that idea from them and put black people instead of British people. That's all they did. It's not like a unique thing that came up. And so when you specifically, even if you look at Egyptian artifacts and hieroglyphics, you see the Egyptians actually depicted what the Canaanites and even the Israelites look like. And they were not black people. They were obviously, lighter skinned people that we would, assume as Arabs. And you could tell their complexion and what they looked like was nothing like black people at all. But they ignored that for whatever reasons that I don't understand because, like I said, it's a cult. And so they base their thinking on emotion, not fact and logic. So they refuse that.
Well, no, they ignore it. I'll tell you why they ignore it, because again, that's why I said ultimately they were raised in a Judeo-Christian society where the Bible is seen as being paramount in the book, and you're shown to be, according to that book, closer to God if you refer to yourself as an Israelite, right? And of course, in the Bible, the Israelites are the good people. They're the people of God, the chosen people, and the so-called Egyptians, right? They're the evil people. They worship the devil and things like that. So that's why they
the
want to.
Bible actually doesn't categorize Egyptians in that way, and that's my point. Is that the Bible itself refutes themselves. The problem is they don't know the Bible. You know what I mean? What they know is the doctrine that they've been taught by other Hebrew Israelites. That's why when I showed them, for example, there's passages in the Bible where the Bible talks about that the Lord will deliver the Egyptians, that the Egyptians are God's people too. It says that in the Bible itself. And when you show them that, they look at you sideways like you just made that up and you added it to it, but it's not. It's there. And even there was examples, for example, of different pharaohs that God would send them. For example, the Pharaoh Necho going to war against the Babylonians, and how when the king, I believe it's Josiah, came out to meet him in battle. This is recorded in the Bible. Pharaoh Necho tells Josiah, "What are you doing? It's your God, the Lord, is one who instructed me to go to war against the Babylonians, and that he's given me victory over them." And so Josiah, when he came out against them, he actually got killed because he went against what God commanded him to do. And so when you show them these things, they look at you like, what? Because it shatters their doctrinal narratives. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. So you just got to distinguish people's cults versus what the Bible actually says. Because when you read the Bible, historically, it actually is more accurate than people realize. And I was someone that was very skeptical of it, and I thought that it had a lot of flawed history. And then when I studied, I found that it actually has a lot of accurate things. It's just that we base our understanding of the Bible based on these ridiculous groups, their cults, and their doctrines that don't actually.
Let me tell you what the connection. Let me tell you the connection that the so-called black Israelites got with Israel. Let me tell you what the connection is. Like I said before, when I was speaking about how a lot of these once the so-called final dynasties was taken down in Egypt, and you had the Romans and the Greeks were coming in, and a lot of the pharaohs and the families that was there for thousands of years fled, and the ruling families left. A lot of them was in the deserts. They went into the desert and whatnot, and they linked up with a lot of these people who were putting together these different laws and this Israelite thing and whatnot. And a lot of these people lived amongst the Egyptians. So basically, over time, they started compiling things that they got from Egypt, compiling things they got from other desert societies and whatnot, and they started mixing in with these people and whatnot. So that's where your Israelite doctrine really comes from. It's nothing but a desert religion or a band of wandering desert people who basically were trying to put together their own laws and things like that and trying to establish something. Because, again, your Israelites are known as desert people, just like your Arabs are known as desert people. These are people who were just in the desert and basically compiling laws from the old kingdoms that they came out of.
Well, I mean, historically, that isn't actually totally accurate due to the fact that we know, I mean, there's archaeological evidence to show that the Israelites not only were a kingdom, but they already had the religious system before the Greeks came and conquered Egypt. For example, we have, there's a portion they found a metal scroll that was rolled up, and in it had the Aaronic prayer, and that was dated around the 6th century BC. And it was in, the ancient form of Hebrew. And we have different stelas that they found among the Hittites and even among the ancient Assyrians that were actually giving mention to the house of David and the different kings of Israel. And so this all predated the Greeks when the Greeks came in and took over Egypt. So they already had a distinct culture and religion beforehand. It's not like it's because people make the mistake of saying, well, they just copied things from this, but it's not. When you actually analyze it in depth, you realize that the Egyptian religious, like their religious, doctrines and ideas are completely different from the Israelites. There's nothing in common. They're totally unique. They have a completely different, creation myth and different, ideas and concepts. It's totally Like there's no commonalities. You know, when you actually study it.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is this: I'm saying that the ones of the so-called Egyptians or the Kemites that left out of Egypt and whatnot, they linked up with a lot of these people on the desert. Like I said, you had the people who were doing the Israelite thing, the desert people, which was like you said, a lot of these mixed race and the Arabs and all these other people that was mixed in, and they were just meeting people on the road and traveling with these people, and they started traveling as a band. Like I said, because all these are nothing but traveling bands of people. And, I did at one point in time dispute the whole thing of Israel really having a kingdom or a society, because most of the kings that they claim that they had, like King David and Solomon, it was never really factually proven that these people actually existed. Because a lot of the, let me give you a good example.
Well, it actually has
Let me give you, let me give you an example of what I'm saying. You know King Solomon, right? It's been factually proven that King Solomon was copied. The character of King Solomon was copied from a pharaoh called Sit Amun. You familiar with that? That actual person Sit Amun.
But there's actual references. This is the thing: is that what we've basically what's been discovered in the last 20 years is you have to remember at one time there was the archaeological communities that, for example, that the Hittite Empire didn't exist, that the Bible had just made them up. There was no that they didn't exist, and they had said certain things about the Assyrians and whatnot. And what did they end up found is when they found and discovered the Hittites and the Assyrians and found stelas and different, tablets that were written out where they would give references, they would see them make reference to them. And even now in Israel, for example, in Megiddo, they found the different, six different wall fortifications that Solomon had built that the Bible referred to, and it's an exact design laid out that the Bible gave for how Solomon designed the gates and how he built the walls and his whole fortifications were made in exact detail. And even today, if you go to Jerusalem, in the area known as the City of David, when they are currently doing an archaeological dig there, there's a lot of evidence coming to show that the actual Israelite temple, or the Solomon's temple, was not on the Temple Mount that people traditionally thought, but they've actually found remnants of it in the actual City of David, down by the springs, south of the temple when you go down the hill. And so a lot of stuff that's coming out now that's actually showing that these were established. So the Israelites had an established kingdom before the Greek occupation of Egypt. They had an established kingdom, and the whole region did. I mean, you had the Assyrians in the north, the Hittites even further north, the Edomites. So Canaan wasn't this wild land. You had established nations with their own unique religions, with their own unique cultures. And so it's not like the Egyptians had, when they fled the Greeks, it's not like they just showed up to a bunch of people that didn't have their own cultures or identities or nations. Those things were already in place.
Okay, but according to
Babylonians.
hold on, wait a minute. But according to the Bible, Moses, right? If you acknowledge the Bible, Moses was in Egypt, right? And the Egyptians were so-called black people. And if you acknowledge that Moses was living amongst these people, if you acknowledge a character named Moses was living amongst these people, and he brought the people out of Egypt and into the desert and heading toward the promised land, which they never made it to, but they were supposed to be heading toward the promised land. Where did this Moses come from, and where did him being a so-called black man come from?
Well, I mean, I'm just talking about the point you made when you said that when the Egyptians left Egypt, when the Greeks came in and took over and the Ptolemy dynasty began, and then they went to Canaan, and that's what I'm saying. The Moses idea, that predated the Greek occupation by more than 1,000 years.
Okay, I understand that.
That's
but
my
what
point.
I'm saying is,
I mean,
what I'm saying
is that,
But what I'm saying is that if you acknowledge in the Bible as being true, then you have to go with the Moses account, saying that Moses was an Israelite, right, and that he was descended from Abraham and all these other so-called prophets, and that he eventually came out of Egypt. He lived amongst the so-called Egyptians, who were so-called black people, I should say, and he came out of them and went and took people, the so-called slaves and whatnot, the so-called Israelites, out into the desert. That's what I'm talking about, if you are going to acknowledge that.
Right, of course, because we know historically, I mean, for example, you go to the city of Avaris, it was evident in the city of Avaris there was a large Canaanite population in that region that had settled there. And so during even that time period specifically, even predating even that time period, you're talking about more than 1300 BC, you already have a large Canaanite population living amongst the Egyptians. And we have that
Okay.
archaeologically discovered in the city of Avaris, where they've showed that there was a large Egyptian Canaanite population, that their architecture was based on Syrian architecture, not Egyptian architecture, and that they had even their way they had their graves and everything was all unique to Syrian or Canaanite culture and it was totally separate from Egyptian. And so
Okay, but
that already is established. And even we have like the records of different Egyptian slave owners, and they have the records of the names of the slaves that they own, and they were Hebrew names. I mean, so
okay,
that's been established, but that's aside the point from the fact that by the time we get to the 5th and 6th century BC, you already have an established nation of Israel with a monarchy, and that's
okay, but what I'm
more
saying,
that's hundreds of years before the Greeks came to Egypt.
okay, but what I'm saying is you're still getting away from the Moses point. Who was Moses leading out of Egypt?
Well, he would obviously be leading a large Canaanite population, and like I said, there was a large Canaanite population in the city of Avaris. I mean, that whole area we're talking about.
But they were never in the Bible referred to as Canaanites. That's false.
Well, no, but I mean,
at
that time period,
hold on. The people that he would lead, because you said the Bible is historically correct. Did you not say that?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's historically correct, then they never said that the people Moses was leading out of Egypt were Canaanites. That's false.
No, what I'm saying is that the group of people that were in Avaris, that entire city was non-Egyptian. That's my point. And that the cultural group of that people were similar to those who we consider Canaanites. Now, at that time period, how could anyone distinguish between an Israelite and a Canaanite? There was no distinguishing factor. They had almost identical cultures. They're from the same region, the same pottery, the same architectural design were identical to that in that region. That's why the archaeologists look at this group in Avaris and say, okay, this is clearly people that came, or we would consider Semitic people that came from the Canaanite region that are not Egyptian. And like I said, that established that there was a large population of Semitic people that were non-Egyptian in that region, which was the same as the Bible talked about the region of Goshen. It's the same area. And the time period matches up perfectly.
Okay, but so you're saying, let me get this straight. I got to take other calls after this. I just want to make a point here.
Yeah.
Moses was a so-called black man, yes?
I don't think Moses was a black man because I don't think the Israelites were black.
Okay, so how is it that Moses was living amongst these people and not being able to be detected, and he living amongst a bunch of black people? Because the Ramesses the Ramesses of that time was clearly a so-called black man. Now, if Moses was in their family and Moses was passing as the son of the Pharaoh's sister, and he was passing off as her son, how can he be other than a black man?
Yeah, that's the thing. When you actually read the Exodus account, it never.
Hello?
I think that's just people put that. People just insinuated that in there. There's no point in the actual Exodus account where it says that Moses passes an Egyptian. It never stated that.
Well, it stated that he was passed off as the Pharaoh's sister's son.
Yeah.
Yes.
It said that Pharaoh's sister adopted him, but it never said that he passes an Egyptian. Let's remember when he confronted the two Israelite slaves that were fighting each other, and remember he fought and killed one of the Egyptian that was coming after him. They said to him, "Are you going to attack us the same way you did the Egyptian?" And so even the Israelites looked at him as an Israelite, and they clearly distincted him from the Egyptians. They didn't consider him an Egyptian at all. And nowhere in the Exodus account does it ever say that the Egyptians somehow thought that Moses was an Egyptian as well. It never says that. That's just people postulating that onto that account.
That's like saying, but hold on, that's like saying if I'm in America and I'm referring myself as an American, but yet I'm from someplace else like Ecuadorian or whatever, and I say, I'm going to be known as a American, especially if I'm holding some sort of post in that society. I'm not going to be known no more as an Ecuadorian. I'm going to be known as an American. So if you're going to refer to Moses,
he never claimed to be an Egyptian.
Okay, but hold on. That's not the narrative. The whole narrative is because I question the whole fact whether so-called Moses even existed. Okay, I question the whole fact of that. So because it's plenty of accounts of Pharaoh's Akhenaten leaving from over in Egypt and going one part of Egypt and going into another part of Egypt, which sounds very much like the so-called Exodus story. Okay, so if you're going to say that
that's just a
this
matter of
Moses,
opinion.
hold on. If you're going to say that this Moses, again, same thing with the so-called King David and all these so-called Israelites that supposedly existed, yet they don't have any burials, any graves, or anything. You can't find them nowhere. If you ask the Israelites, they say God took their bodies, but you can't find them anywhere. But yet they supposedly existed, right?
Well, they
but
did.
what I'm
I mean,
saying
for
is,
example, in the city of Avaris, we found that's how they knew that they weren't Egyptians, because they found their graves and they saw how they buried, and they knew that it was completely different. The same thing applies.
Whose graves were found
in the city of Avaris? Like I said, this is how they knew that the entire city of Avaris were non-Egyptians, but they were Semitic. First, they had the architecture of the building. Secondly, the pottery. Thirdly, how they found their grave sites and how they buried their burial techniques, being buried with the type of animals that they were buried with. So they saw that these were clearly non-Egyptian. Now, if you're talking about David and Solomon specifically,
hold on, pause for a second.
That's a different subject.
You saying they found their bodies?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, are you not familiar
No,
with the archaeological discoveries in
Avaris?
False. No.
They did not find any
Avaris?
bodies of any King David. No, they did not. They did not find any bodies of any King David.
I never said King David. I said Avaris.
Okay.
The city of Avaris is in Egypt.
I asked about
I'm
King
talking
David.
about. I'm talking about the Lord.
Hold on. I asked about these prophets. I asked about these so-called Hebrew prophets.
Okay, for David and Solomon, it's a different subject.
It's supposed to be all these so-called Hebrew prophets existed, yet nobody found any of their bodies anywhere. They can't find nobody's
Well, we didn't find their bodies, but they did find their cities.
Okay.
Like we found Megiddo, which was one of Solomon's fortified cities that was designed exactly how the biblical narrative depicted how the gates were done, how the fortifications were made, the stables, the number of slots available for the chariots.
But that does not prove that these people existed. That does not prove
that. Yes, it did, because at the city of David, at the city of David, they found that.
Sir,
it
does not. Where are their bodies at? You can say anything. You can attribute a city to anybody. It's the people that make the city, sir. If you did not find any of their bodies, all these so-called prophets, then that means they did not exist.
No,
not
finding the bodies. That's in and of itself. That doesn't. No, hold on. Don't run though.
Thank you. I gotta take another call. Okay, thank you. I gotta take another call. Okay. 347.
Okay, I think it's safe to say that the white man threw everybody, not everybody, but the white man threw a lot of people heads into chaos and confusion. Because what people don't understand is when the latter Egyptians were conquered by the Greeks, the Egyptians and the Greeks were worshiping the same things. And people don't even realize Christianity. People don't even realize the astronomy and the astrology behind Christianity to understand that all of these people were worshiping the same. One of them had it in the form of multiple gods. The other put it in the form of one god. Recently I found paintings of the Holy Roman Empire, for example, and the Greek Empire. And the early Greek statues look Egyptian.
Yeah. Well, see, let me tell you something. And this is what people don't want to deal with. All of this stuff you're seeing, even from the Greeks to Catholicism, Islam, Israelite Judaism, all that stuff comes from the Sumerians and passed down to the Egyptians. And all these people did was they took from those older people's cultures and changed names. That's all they did. It's the same gods. They just changed names. You understand? They changed names. They tweaked a few different things here and there. But like I said, the so-called Israelites, their six-pointed star or their Mogan David, they Mogan David, is nothing but two pyramids, one upside down, one right side up and one right upside down. And like I said, they're the same ones who sealing their prayers off with Amen. The Israelites, the Muslims, and the Christians, which is the God Amen in Egypt, or so-called God Amen in Egypt. So all this is the same stuff. These people took things from there. So to try to act like these people came with some whole nother connection to a higher being and whatnot, that's false, man. That's false. Just like when I was telling this guy, that's why, and I know that you, the guy that's a Christian, this guy's a Christian, and he always comes on the broadcast every so often to try and debate about that. But when I kept asking him about Moses and whatnot, and I asked him about these so-called Israelite prophets, like how come you don't find any of the bodies of these people in any of the cities you claim? You mean to tell me you ain't found one prophet, one Israelite prophet nowhere buried nowhere?
Exactly.
You understand?
That's like saying you're actually gonna find a tomb of Osiris. That's not gonna happen. You might find a tomb, you might find a burial site, but you're not gonna find nobody in there.
Exactly. You find all these ancient Egyptian pharaohs. You find all these real culture and people. I never said that Hyksos and all those people didn't exist. They existed, but like I said, you had all kinds of people coming into Egypt because what you don't understand, Egypt at that time was like the America of its time. Everybody went there. You know what I'm saying? Or was around those cities because it was a cosmopolitan place, a cosmopolitan city, country, and whatnot. People were going there, coming in and out of there. So people would take things from there and whatnot. That's why that society, ancient Egypt, is virinated in America and things like that because Egypt was like the America of its day. You know, it was a very cosmopolitan place, and you had people. You had a lot of people. No, go ahead. Go what you were saying.
And if you mentioned Akhenaten, I don't know if he can explain this, but if Akhenaten changed Egyptian religion from the worship of Amen to the worship of Aten, right? Aten, why would he allow his son to be named Tutankhamun Amen if he changed the religion from Amen to Aten? That right there proves that he allowed the worship of Amen to move up northward. That's probably how it got to Israel. That's probably how it got in these Bibles. That's probably how it got in these religious texts. And they can't see it.
No, they can't see it because they got the whole narrative of, the Israelites and whatnot, and they got some connection with God because they really want to say that the so-called Israelites, like this guy, they really want to say that the so-called Israelites are Caucasian or Arabs. That's really what he wants to say. All right, that's what he's trying to say, but that don't really wash because again he couldn't explain the whole thing about Moses living amongst the Egyptians and looking like these people and things like that. Even though, like I said, that's really the account of Thutmose, you know what I'm saying, or Thutmose and whatnot, and they change names. You understand? When they translate and they translating stories or biblical accounts or narratives into other languages, they change names, they change deities and whatnot. And this guy, the Israelite guy who I was talking about, he went into describing the different name changes that the Caucasians, the Greeks, and the Romans did when they took the ancient Egyptian or ancient Kemetic gods and whatnot, and how they changed them over into the Greek names and whatnot. Same gods, just changed the name, changed the colors, look more like them. He named about at least 5 or 6 different translations of where they changed over the gods' names. I'm like, you really think the so-called Israelites didn't do the same thing?
Exactly.
They did the exact same thing. They did the exact same thing. They 10 Commandments, they so-called 613, 614 and 613 codes of Hammurabi, or codes, which is where the word rabbi comes from, Hammurabi. So all this stuff, like I said, is copied off of the Egyptians and the Sumerians and older cultures. That's all. And they just change names. It's no big deal. But I hate when people try to change the narrative and make it to where they want to make it because they caught up in the whole biblical thing and whatnot, and they missed the bigger picture of it. To try to demonize the so-called ancient Egyptians and whatnot, and say they were tribal Africans, when the tribal Africans, like I said, you're talking about something just totally different because the so-called tribal Africans, they didn't have any society. They didn't have any real society. They didn't have any real real culture. Everything was just tribal traditions and whatnot and customs and whatnot. To try and say that those were the ancient Egyptians who had real culture, who had real customs, who had real building practice. Trying to translate and say that those are the same people. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, and what these people don't understand is, for example, for people who try to demonize. For the people who try to demonize Kemet or demonize Egypt, they don't realize that these people's minds are earthbound. Just that's it right there. But they don't understand September was a holy month in Egypt because in the southern hemisphere, September is the start of spring. Virgo is the constellation of the month of September. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Bethlehem means house of bread. If you look at the constellation of Virgo, is the woman, Virgin Mary, holding the wheat. A zodiac sign is considered a house. So these people minds are earthbound. They don't even understand the larger picture behind it, and the fact that all of these people, they're actually celestial bodies. body of people operating as one covenant, one group, one body of people. And these people, their minds are earthbound, so they're never going to understand that. They can look to this, they can look to that, and they're never going to understand it.
Well, there is no Jesus Christ. That Christ is nothing but a creation of the so-called Catholic Church, which they took from the Egyptian pharaohs, the prophets, and whatnot, and they took that and created their Christ out of that. Which is a Greco-Roman thing, because they'll talk about the ancient Egyptians, and the worst thing you could do is put history in the hands of religious people. The worst thing you could do is put history, because they're going to slant the history the way they want to, and they're going to tell lies, like you Israelites tell lies. I'm not saying you, but the Israelites, how they tell lies when you put the history in their hands and trust them to translate things right and be truthful, because they trying to win. They want Israel and their God, Yahweh Shai, whatever. They want their God, to be the Most High. So anything before or after, whatever, everything to them is a lie. They're not going to look at it logically, realistically, and without bias and say, you know what? We did take from the Egyptians here. We do close our prayer off with the word Amen because of them. And their God, Amen. We do got these 613 laws from these 614 negative confessions of the codes of Hammurabi. All of it is interlocking. So it's just people translating ideas, translating ways of thinking. It's the same stuff. You understand? That's all. People plagiarizing and copying and whatnot and going forward. Simple as that. That's all. What you have to do, you have to get back to, in order to go forward, you have to get back to the original, which is Amen. Amen is the original. Amen is the first. You go back to Amen and then bypass all of these so-called doctrines, the Israelites, the Egyptians, because I don't care about the Egyptians, I don't care about the Israelites, I don't care about the Sumerians. Honestly, like I said, I care more about the celestial being Amen, or the celestial beings Amen that they were dealing with, because societies and cultures and America, all that stuff comes and goes. You understand? It comes and goes. With the true power, the power is not in the society of the people, it's in the Most High who gives them power, who puts them in charge. So it's Amen alone. That's it. Don't care about no damn Moses and no uncle and aunt and no Pharaoh. It's like this guy's gonna have an argument with me today. This guy inboxes me telling me about how the Egyptian pharaohs had beards and whatnot, and how he liked to wear his beards. And I told him, no, the Egyptian pharaohs wore false beards. A lot of them were tied up beards they put on their face because they didn't grow facial hair like that. Then he starts going to, oh, brother, he starts inboxing me pictures of pharaohs. I'm like, listen, brother, if you want to wear facial hair on your face, that's fine. I told him to research, and I even put a link in the article and showed where it showed that the Egyptian pharaohs were wearing false beards, and they wore them like decorations. Oh, I don't want to listen to nothing the white man said. Oh, now it's something the white man say, but when you was talking about when he was talking about research and stuff, because he had hair on his face, now then they pick and choose when they want to listen. So I'm telling him, I don't care what the ancient Egyptians did, because I'm not personality driven or nor am I people driven. I don't care what they did. We as the Mentellean Ammonites, the men don't wear facial hair. I don't give it the Sumerians, the Egyptians, or all those people did beforehand. They're gone. They are gone. I don't care about what they did. So I said, brother, if you want to wear facial hair and whatnot, don't justify it to me. Go somewhere, you get a group of guys, you put on all the Egyptian headpieces and wear beards all you want to. But we, as the Mentellean Ammonites, the men, we don't wear facial hair. Simple as that. And that's it.
Simple as that, brother. Linear progression. Linear progression, that's what it's called, man. Thank you for answering.
Exactly. All right. Okay. Take care, bro. All right. So we're gonna play a little bit of music. We got way back. And let me say something about that guy who was claiming they was digging up all these and finding these so-called, because he noticed the guy never said they found a King David. They never found King Solomon. These is royal people, supposedly royal people. But you mean to tell me they never found their bodies? They never found all these Israelite prophets nowhere, right? They found buildings and things like that, but buildings can be attributed to anybody. That could be attributed to anybody. Names are changed and things like that. So at the end of the day, what does that really matter? It's the people. It's the people. So when people are sitting here saying, "Oh, you know, the Israelites, the tribal Africans," again, a people by what they build, what they continue to build. If they continue going forward, because they're going to pass along oral custom and tradition. And the broadcast tonight was about the so-called Egyptians, and were they are all the so-called black people, the so-called black people, aka bronze people in America, their descendants. Yes, we are their descendants. Our people went all over the planet. We was here in America. It's all the same people. Where you see them pyramid cultures at, where you see the serpent at, what you so-called Israelites, you use the serpent too. Where did you get the serpent from? Because you'll sit up here and say in one part of your Bible that the serpent is evil. Then in another part you say being wise is a serpent. And then you talk about the serpent is good on the right-hand side and then on the left-hand side. So you guys want to use things that the so-called Egyptians was using first. They was wearing serpents on their crown, but y'all seem to get away from that. Just like you get away from the fact that these so-called Neolithic Africans, the Neolithic Africans, why wasn't they building any pyramids after they left Egypt? Right? The only way they got in, the reason why the so-called those tribal Africans was in Egypt or in the middle, what they call in the Middle East today, is because they were brought there as slaves. They don't want to tell you that. So you actually got it backwards. You got it backwards. They didn't have us in slavery. We had them in slavery. We had the so-called Africans in slavery. We had the tribal Africans like Barack Obama and their father was in slavery. We had them in slavery. We had the white man in slavery, the Caucasians. We had the Asians in slavery. You understand? As the Sumerians and as the Egyptians, we had them in slavery. You understand? So y'all need to get that nonsense out of y'all mind. See, the reason why y'all been conned into being the so-called Israelites, because I said, when I tried to make the point to the guy that when a lot of our people left out of Egypt, because the Israelites will admit that a lot of the so-called Egyptians left out of Egypt. What in the last dynasties they got with these desert people, and they started trading off ideas and trading off gods and former religions of ways of belief that they had, and this is where your whole Israelite doctrine came from. And they started changing names and adding things and whatnot, taking things away. So that's really where the whole account or the narrative of Israel comes from. You understand? And I got pointed out in the so-called Superman story. Let me just say this before I get off topic. When he keeps talking about how Israel, how they found all this stuff. If these so-called archaeologists are looking for any thing about the Bible to prove that King David and these so-called prophets existed, it's only because the so-called Caucasian Jews that are in Israel today, the ones who came in there, the false ones, they're called what are they called? The Khazars, and the Ashkenazim, the converts. They came over there, and the only reason they're trying to look for it is because they're trying to give validity to Zionism. The so-called white Jews, they're paying for the so-called archaeologists to come up with these false findings and whatnot, and trying to rewrite the narrative of history and whatnot, supposedly digging up edifice proving that places that Israel existed, because they're trying to give themselves a history. I'm talking about the Ashkenazi and the Sephardic Caucasian Jews from the caves were trying to give themselves a history and they've also went as far as to link themselves to ancient Egypt or Kemet. And a lot of times you so-called Israelites, you help things when you do that. When you sit up here and tell that lie, you try to erase a part of history that is very important when we're talking about how the so-called Olmecs, which y'all really didn't want to deal with, because this guy, the Israelite guy, now all of a sudden he wants to deal with the so-called Olmecs. But in your Israelite doctrine, you teach that the so-called Native Americans, those mixed up Asian-looking or East Indian-looking so-called Native Americans were first here in America, which is false. The Mayans, the Inca, the Mayans, or whatever you want to call them, those were your first, those were your Olmecs, right, who were here in America, and they have the same connection to the ancient Egyptians because they carried the serpent and they built pyramid-style structures. So they have the same origins. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Olmecs, all the same people. All the same people. Same customs and everything. They did a documentary on that showing how they had a lot of the same customs and whatnot. So the only way you could develop that same custom and things is being amongst those people like that. And then eventually breaking off and traveling, into different areas. So they took a lot of their customs and things with them, which is why I bring it back to, if you claiming that the so-called tribal Africans are the Egyptians, then where did all the pyramid culture go to? Why ain't the tribal Africans built no pyramids? Why aren't they not wearing crowns with serpents on them? You understand? Why they not? Why don't they know anything about Amen or what the so-called ancient Egyptians was teaching? How come they don't know none of the customs? How come they know all this tribal nonsense? You go and ask any one of them and whatnot about Amen or ancient Egypt, they're gonna look at you like you crazy because they know that's not the people, and they're not gonna connect to those people. But yet you say that to so-called black people here in America. If you notice, so-called black people, they link right into that, and you could look at the so-called people on the wall. That's why they put them there and showed you the connection, that you could tell that those are not your regular tribal Africans on that wall. You could look and tell that there's a different people. Like you Israelites are always quick to point out that the so-called Israelites, y'all want to refer to them as Israelites, that we different from the Africans, and you are right about that. But we differ in terminology of the word Israel, and trying to equate or connect the so-called tribal Africans, right, who are not our people. I agree with that. Who are not our people. You trying to link them to the so-called ancient Egyptians, and it's not washing. You understand that? It's not connecting. It's not connecting. When I put up the picture, I'm about to put the picture of Hammurabi, who was a Sumerian, Babylonian. I'm about to put up from where the codice of Hammurabi come from. You see clearly that they did the same thing with his statue, his bust, that they did with the ancient Egyptian pharaohs and all them, which is break off the lips and the nose, because our people, from the noses, from our features, our extremities, it's from our lips and our nose. And our skin complexion, when we do paintings, our people. It's from our hair texture. It's from how we wear our hair, afros, braids, things like that. Our people. You understand? And the tribal Africans when you see them. A tribal African when you see them, and our people, the bronze ones, the bronze race when you see them. You could tell how our hair texture is. You could tell how our features are. You understand? You could tell how we dress. You understand? The so-called Africans, they're not. You look at the people in the ancient world, the pharaohs. You could tell they dress very stylish, and that's a trait of the so-called bronze, the bronze race. We stylish people. The Africans, the so-called tribal Africans are not stylish people at all. You understand? You could tell that about our people. You could tell certain things that connect. Here you found in ancient Egypt, you found hair weaves. You found hair weaves and extensions in ancient Egypt, thousands of years old. What no damn white women was wearing that, and there wasn't no damn Africans wearing that. You could tell it looked like a damn hair weave that one of these so-called bronze women would have on today. Shaniqua would have on her damn head, same damn hair weave. It's the same people. But see, y'all don't want to. A lot of y'all, you Israelites, don't want to acknowledge that because again, y'all don't have, because the ancient Egyptians had a rulership mentality. You so-called Israelites, y'all don't have a rulership mentality. You have a slave mentality. That's why y'all so happy to talk about how you under Esau, you under the white man, you was under the Africans, the so-called Egyptians, according to y'all, because y'all really have a slave mentality, and you have a hard time accepting the fact that our people were once in rulership. And it wasn't in no damn Israel. We was not in any rulership in no Israel. That's a lie. Because when y'all say that, I ask you to show me where at. Where at in Israel was you in rulership? Where's your kingdoms at? Where's your burial grounds at? Where's your customs and things at? I'm not talking about a bunch of customs that could be easily traced to other older civilizations. I'm talking about your original customs. Your original customs. Because you can find all that Israelite teaching and stuff coming from older civilizations, which means all you did was copy from them. That's all that means. Show me your prophets. Show me where Jesus buried at. Show me where David is buried at. Show me where Solomon is buried at. Show me where all these so-called prophets who you claim existed in the name of Israel, show me where they at. Prove where they at. Show me that even this guy that was on the phone couldn't even do it. He kept talking about going on. He kept glossing over, talking about the buildings. Yeah, but the buildings. I didn't ask you about the buildings. You don't know who built those buildings. You wasn't there. You don't know anything. You just believe in what these Caucasians said because, again, it's all about Israel trying to give themselves a history and a timeline, the Caucasian Jews. They're trying to give themselves a history and a timeline. You think they're going to go, because even this guy was up here talking, the Israelites are not black, and I don't believe that they're, yeah, you're here to push Christianity. You're here just like the Israelites are here to push their form, just like they're here to push their form of Christianity, which is Israel. That's nothing but Christianity. Israelite teaching from you so-called Negroes here in America is nothing but Christianity. That's all. It's nothing but Christianity where basically y'all want to be the martyrs, you want to be the slave class, and you want to believe that a God is going to come and deliver you. That's why you push that narrative that the so-called Africans was in rulership and they are enemies and whatnot, and we, the oppressed people of Israel, the so-called Native Americans, the so-called black man, and all these other people who look nothing like us are your people because you link in your connection, you link in your kinship to poverty. You're linking your kinship to poverty. You saying, oh, we was all slaves together, so God is going to deliver us and whatnot, because you keep thinking that big payoff is going to come sometime from your God, Yahweh Shah. That's why you want to keep staying with that narrative that you was the ancient Israelites and whatnot, and that the Egyptians was evil, and that they was Africans, and that they was a bunch of homosexuals and lesbians and degenerates. Yet these people are our people here in America today. They are our people here in America today. When you so-called GMS guys, you Israelite GMS guys went to the museums, when you went to the damn museum, the New York Metropolitan Museum, y'all was around the Egyptian, y'all was around the ancient Egyptian stuff. It wasn't no Israel stuff you went to. It was the Israelite stuff in the museum. Y'all went around the ancient Egyptian stuff, and you was trying to find Israel somewhere in those narratives, but you really couldn't find anything. You understand? They wasn't talking about no Israel on no damn walls in Egypt. You understand that? Because those people didn't even exist until they came out and whatnot and got with those band of wanderers in the desert, like I said. Let me take a call. 954.
Yeah, greetings, Nuben. How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Thank you. Well, I got dizzy listening to that one caller there. You're right.
That's the Christian guy. He's the Christian guy. He always comes on. He try every so often. He comes on to cause confusion and whatnot, but he never answers a straight question. So I know his number. I'm not taking his call no more because he just comes to cause. And when I kept asking him, well, where's Moses at? Where did Moses come from? Where are these bodies out of these pharaohs? Because that's what I'm talking. I don't care about what you claim a building or edifice is linked to the people. Because anybody could claim a building. Tell me the people. Show me the bodies of the people. Because bodies just don't just up and disappear like that.
That's correct, Nuben. He keeps bringing up these claims. You know, he has archaeologists. People claim things all the time. I can claim something today. But the thing is, when you ask something, just if he can talk about 20,000 years ago or whatever, but if you just go back 2,000 years, they can't come up with prophecy. 3,000 years. He can't. He's trying to mix apple with oranges and mix Bible stories with I hate to use the word history, but, you know, past history. He's trying to mix it up and knowing that since I've been a child, I came up through Christianity. My father was a Baptist minister, and he would take me to the different houses of worship, and I had plenty of time, even outside when I got to adult, to ask questions about this divinity thing. And even in the Catholic Church, priests and bishops would always tell me that they're Bible stories. These are stories, and they're supposed to be taken literally. And it is written real elementary. It's written real elementary. But these stories are just for to guide people. But this guy that called in is trying to teach it as the truth. He's trying to teach it as the truth because he's doing like what Constantine did. Not only he, but people like him are doing just like what Constantine did. They're trying to include themselves into this whole narrative, this whole past. That's what they're trying to include themselves and get credit for it, make themselves valid in the whole process. When all they do, they have a history of stealing everybody's, as they say, culture vultures. They gobble up with everybody else and hit you upside the head so you forget who you were. This is why you've been given the gift of putting a signal out to bring the people who do realize who they are, what they're connected to, and people can feel it. Those few people who are from Amen, they definitely get that signal, and it's a true signal because we don't know who's who on, because, you know, people walk around in these bodies these spirits, whatever you want to call them. Some of them not souls like what you teach, which I believe in. Not all of them are souls, but these people are walking around in bodies that look.
Many are spirits. Spirit.
Right.
Many
so
of them
we
are
think we're all the same. Yeah, we all think we're all the same. We can breed with them. We can interchange parts, but they're soulless people. But I just wanted to say about the same thing. There is no. When I tell my Catholic friends for decades, I've told them. I said, this Jesus character they have in the Bible had brothers and sisters, and they aren't told that because they just do catechism. They don't read the Bible. They don't even read the Catholic Bible. But the thing is, they don't realize that Jesus, the story of Jesus, had brothers and sisters. And you would think there would be some bloodlines not that long ago. That's not that long ago now. There would be bloodline kinship living somewhere on this earth, even of all the other prophets too. But you can't find one kinship of any prophet. And there was hundreds and hundreds of prophets. There's no kinship anywhere. Yeah. No proof of it. No proof. That's why they can't even teach in school. They can't teach it. He kept saying history. You can call the biblical stories or Bible stories, but it's not a history because you can't prove anything. It's just divinity or theology, just like when you go to college or to a school to learn all this stuff about the divinity. But the thing is, there's no history to it. So they can't teach it in the schools. It's just based on belief. That's all. The stories are just supposed to help people out. That's all. They're great stories now. The fabulous stories. Yeah. No one could prove any of the characters of these prophets who they proclaim. I just wanted to let you know that I hope people don't take him as some teacher, because I think he's trying to take over your classroom and get people to see that.
He's a Christian. He's a Christian. The worst thing you could do, the worst thing you could do is let religious people try to teach history, because they're gonna, just like the Israelite guy, they're gonna lie and they're gonna omit certain things because they don't want certain things found out, because they're trying to win an argument. They're trying to prove, we're really supposed to be Christians, or we're really supposed to be Israelites, or we're really supposed to be Muslims. So they're not trying to tell the whole truth. You have to be unbiased in order to tell the truth and whatnot. And from start to finish and continuing on, it has always been Amen in the beginning and Amen still to this day and whatnot. That's why I stick with Amen. I don't care about what people did in history, because again, like I said, all you got to do is look at history, look at those faces. The faces tell the story. The faces, the hairstyle, everything tells the story. But see, they don't want to look at that. They want to look at a bunch of false history and whatnot and false narratives. And that guy was playing games, man. Because when I kept asking him straight up questions, he was trying to get away from it. You know what I mean? That guy came on before, man.
Yeah, a lot of those scribes back in the day who were literally who could write. Those scribes wrote whatever people told them sometimes. There were many scribes, many scribes, and many books, many tablets. We'll call them tablets, because they didn't really have books. Like I said, they didn't even have a compilation of books until the 16th century. The printer wasn't even invented until the 16th century. And people don't take note of that. But these compilations of books, and you have these organizations that put the books together, they decide what's going to be in the book, what's not going to be in. That's why when you lay out all the Bibles on the table, I used to know this brother that he owned a bookstore, Black Hawk Books, up in Seattle. And I used to go into his bookstore, and he'd have like 30 or 40 Bibles on the table, and they're all different. They're all different versions. And that's when I got interested to find out what's going on, whose story they're going to tell, who's going to control the narrative. And he would always compare all these different books. This is back in the early 80s.
When you see, let me tell you something. When you see constantly the same figures showing up throughout the Bible, that tells you what was prominent or what was prevalent, which is the name Amen, the serpent, the dove. All these things come from out of ancient Kemet, which goes even further into Sumeria and can be found in the ancient societies that we had standing. Like I said, none of this stuff is new, and it didn't come out of Israel. It came from older civilizations. It's just people taking stuff and copying stuff and going forward with it. But like I said, I came to hit that thing in the head tonight, and I wish some of you Israelites would call in and whatnot and try and prove me wrong. Because you guys, and I know you guys are going to come into the comment section when this goes into YouTube, and you guys are going to say, yeah, I could have got with that guy in intellectual Nuberman Carres and broke that down. Well, why ain't y'all calling? Because I posted everywhere, and I know you Israelites are friends of mine on Facebook. A lot of you thumbed up the things I said, but you're not going to come in just like when I broke down the Esau and Jacob story, when I broke down the serpent seed and Eve seed. You guys never show up, but you can talk all the crap you want to. Now I'm breaking down and exposing that lie that y'all want to tell about the tribal Africans being Israelites. They are not the Israelites. Those Neolithic African, tribal Africans scarring themselves up with the BB buckshot head, they are not the Egyptians. And you so-called Israelites are going to stop telling that lie today. The so-called ancient Egyptian Kemites, their descendants are here in America today as the so-called black race, a.k.a. the bronze race and whatnot. In America, South America, Mexico, they're the same people, the Olmecs, the Olmecs, the Sumerians. We all linked by the pyramid. We linked by the serpent. We linked by all of those things that the white man is now trying to claim as his own. And that's going to stop.
You want to know something, brother? I was in the Yucatan. I flew into Cancun. This was about 10 years ago. I took my family there. We went into what they would call the jungles. We went to check out some of those pyramids. And as we go to these villages in these small towns, the people, which the terms we use, native people there, real dark-skinned people, bronze people like our color, their hair is straight, jet black, but they told us that they know who they are. They said that we're not Spanish people. We know who we are. He said we speak Spanish language. We speak Yucca. We speak the Yucca, and they said that they didn't kill all of us. So I found that very inspiring. That they know they still have ties to their ancient part. A little bit of what's left.
They always got so-called the bronze people hiding with the woolly hair. They always got us hiding somewhere, the wavy and woolly hair. They got us hiding somewhere. We everywhere, brother. We everywhere.
They already acknowledged the ones in Mexico. Last year, and there's about a million or so down there, so-called. They don't really know the real number, but they look just like
the Afro Mexicanos,
right?
The Afro Cubano. They try to hide the so-called the bronze man, the bronze woman everywhere. The woolly hair, without woolly and wavy and curly hair. They try to hide us everywhere. They don't want us to be seen, brother. Like I said, it's a game they playing, and the Israelites. The Caucasians, they all on board with that. I'm going to say, you so-called Israelites, like I said, a lot of you guys are nothing but a bunch of black Caucasians, man. I'm going to just say it like that. A lot of you so-called Israelites, because you believe that the Esau is your brother, the white man is your brother, these so-called Mexicans and all these other people are your people. They're not your people, man. So you the last ones to sit up here and talk about who's not the ancient Egyptians and who is the ancient Egyptians. Y'all the last ones to be talking about anything, man.
All right, brother. You take care.
All right, brother. Take care.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, too. Thank you. We're going to take another break. We're going to play a little bit. I'm waiting for these Israelites to call in here who claim they're going to tear me up and take me apart and what I'm saying and whatnot. I'm using logic and rationale, brother. That's all I ever use, logic and rationale. You guys use all kinds of false narratives and things like that about Israel and whatnot because you guys are nothing but Christians and you're just trying to follow the Bible. And we are back. Like I said, a lot of you guys have a slave mentality. You know, you Israelites, and you guys are nothing but Christians. You have a slave mentality. And you don't want to actually point to those of your people who are in power who look like you. You understand? You want to wait on the big payoff that you believe is coming from your God, Yahweh Shah. That's why you got to paint everybody in the ancient world, right, who's not part of the Bible narrative as evil. Because that's where you got this whole idea that the so-called Egyptians were evil. You got it from the Caucasians and the Caucasian theologians, and you got it out of the Bible. You made up this lie talking about the ancient Egyptians was having sex with alligators and crocodiles. That's all kind of foolishness. But then you take certain things from their doctrine and from their teaching and whatnot and incorporate it into your Israelite lies. You know, you incorporated it into your Israelite lies. You understand that? Because you guys are slaves. You have a slave mentality. It's just like here in America today, you'll talk all up and down about the white man being the devil and this society being evil, but you niggas indulge in this society. You indulge in this society. You go out, you guys on Facebook, you guys out here screwing women, you out here drinking at bars and going. I heard you guys are celebrating things in Babylon or America, or celebrating with the white man, or some of you guys even sleep with white women. So you guys are hypocrites, man. You Israelites are hypocrites, man. I'm gonna just say it like that. And you guys don't have a ruling class mentality. You have a slave mentality. That's why you won't stop working for Esau. As much as you curse out Esau, who you say is the devil, but yet he's your brother, and you got this love-hate relationship with him, but you still go to work for him. If you really had a ruling class mentality and you really believed the white man was the devil, you wouldn't be working for him. You wouldn't be working for him. You understand that? You hate the ancient Egyptians and the society of ancient Egypt because, again, that the Bible vilifies them. The Bible vilifies the ancient Egyptians. Because in your whole Moses story, talking about how the Egyptians were so evil to the Israelites, and that God destroyed the ancient Egyptians, and this, that, and the third. So that's what you're really going off of. A bunch of false narratives instead of the actual accounts, instead of the actual history. You would rather follow a bunch of false narratives, talking about the scriptures, and you got to deal with the scriptures, and the scripture says this, and the scripture says that, and the scripture says this, and the scripture says that. There's a script. The scripture never said that the so-called ancient Egyptians were tribal Africans or Neolithic people, as you claim. You understand? They never said that. That's something y'all made up. The Bible never said that the 12 tribes sign includes a bunch of damn Mexicans and Ecuadorians and all these people that you put on the sign. That's something y'all made up. You show me where it says that in the Bible. Since you guys want, because you guys pick and choose when you want to follow the narratives of the Bible and when you don't. That 12 tribe sign's a load of BS. That's just an excuse that you Israelites came up with because a lot of you older Israelites, they want to sleep with so-called Native American women, so-called Mexican women. They wanted to have their pick of other women other than so-called black women. That's why they included all the so-called tribes, because they don't want to feel like they're wrong when it comes to sleeping with so-called Indian women, so-called Mexican women, and other races of women other than they so-called Israelite women. They cursing out. You understand that? You guys are nothing but a bunch of Christians, man. And like I said, never put history in the hands of religious people. Never put true history, in the hands of religious people because, like I said, true history will reveal the falsehood of their religious doctrine, and they don't want to do that. Just like it will reveal a false narrative that you Israelites tried to pass off our heritage, which is our ancient Kemetic teachings, which was directly offshot from Amen, going to the Sumerians and whatnot, which comes directly from Amen, from the true Lord, which y'all acknowledge is the Lord, because all throughout the Bible, and I brought this out, I'm going to keep bringing this out, you guys keep talking about Amen is not the God of the Bible, Amen is not the God of the Bible, Amen is not the God, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh is the God of the Bible, but why is Yahweh not in the Bible? Why is that name not in the Bible? Why is Amen all throughout the Bible, but Yahweh isn't? Why is Amen all throughout the Bible, but Yahweh is absent? Show me in your Israel. Show me in a Hebrew Bible where Yahweh is. Show me where the name Yahweh is. See, you guys are phony, man. You guys are phony. And like I said, you no different than Christians, because Christians believe the same thing. Christians have this slave mentality as well. Because we in a Judeo-Christian society, and in a Judeo-Christian society, right, which is really run by Masons, right? Masons who have a rulership mentality over you so-called Judeo-Christian Israelites who really have a slave mentality, right? Who want to keep on believing that some God is going to come, your Israelite God is going to come out of the sky in spaceships to rescue you from bondage from the white man or from Egypt or wherever y'all supposedly got it rescued from, right? That's false, man. That's a load of BS. Just like trying to pass off our ancient culture, our ancient heritage, as that of these tribal Africans. Trying to pass it off as that of those tribal Africans. That's false, man. That's false. And not one of you guys who claim to be so-called Israelite, because you're only doing that because you guys don't have any money. A lot of times you guys get money, and you start indulging in the delicacies of the harlot, which you call America, right? And you'll start acting like the people here in America. You'll start doing that, just like what the so-called Israelites, which is like I said, the people who came out of Egypt, they got into that whole Israelite thing later on down the line with those desert people, and they start mixing them with them. Like I tried to tell the guy, right? They got into that much later. And when they did the narrative of Superman, right? When they showed you, I brought this up. I'm gonna bring this up again because I want to be reminded of it. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, when I was doing the Martin Luther King breakdown on Martin Luther King on Monday, what I've neglected to mention was right after Martin Luther King was killed, his brother Albert King was assassinated and his mother was assassinated, Alberta Williams. Albert King, Martin Luther King's brother, was drowned in a swimming pool 1 year after Martin Luther King was killed. Now, his brother Albert King was an expert swimmer, and people was like amazed at how this man drowned in the pool. He was killed. His whole family, Martin Luther King's whole family, was going to be wiped out. Then his mother was killed in 1972 because his brother was killed in 1969. His brother Albert King, and his mother was killed in 1972 by a midget by the name of Wayne Chenault. A midget under MK Ultra mind control came in and killed his mother. He was really trying to kill his father, Martin Luther King Sr., aka Michael King, but he ended up killing the mother instead. So they was trying to kill that whole family because their whole family was working with the government. But I just had to put that in there before I forgot. I wanted to get that bit of history out that nobody knew about. Look up Marcus Wayne Chenault and what happened to Martin Luther King's mother and brother. Also, but like I was saying, like I said, it's the false narrative. You Israelites, you take the thing of the serpent, you include it into there in your Bible, you conclude Amen into the Bible, the serpent. Where do you think all that come from? You can't call the so-called Egyptians evil, wicked people, but then you taking things from them. You taking association with the serpent from them. You taking a connection with Amen from them. You taking a lot of their laws from them. So where exactly does your Lord, your God, Yahweh deal with you at? Where does your Lord Yahweh deal with you at? You understand? Where does your prophets exist at? Where are your prophets at? Where did the whole existence of your prophets come from? From the ancient Kemites and the ancient Egyptians and the older people that actually lived. That's where you copied and created your characters from. It's not hard to find out. It's not hard to figure out. And like I said, you guys are no different. You guys are nothing but Christians calling yourself Israelites because you want to believe in that pie in the sky that the Lord going to come and save you and whatnot and raise you up. The Most High is going to raise up those who are in alignment with that rulership mentality, that ruler class mentality, because the Most High Lord, Amen, is only dealing with the rulership class. Amen is not dealing with slaves. So this idea that some God is going to come and uplift some slaves, you understand, is a lie. It ain't never happened. It ain't never happened. What God would uplift a bunch of slaves because slaves would not know how to rule. Slaves would not know how to rule. That's why they're slaves. You're going to have two types of people in this world. You're going to have people who are rulers, and you're going to have those who are slaves. See, the white man, the original word slave came from the word Slavic word, the word Slav, which meant servant, which comes from the Caucasians. So the white man realized that in order for him to be put in power, he had to have a ruler. He had to adopt a ruling class mentality, which he got from our people. He had to adopt the ruling class mentality before he could come into power, before the Most High could put him into power. Briefly, he had to adopt that in his mind. You so-called Israelites never adopted that in your mind. That's why you keep on pushing this nonsense that everybody other than you had power in the world, or you push this fake narrative of these false prophets. You understand? And I'm waiting for you guys to call. I got 9 minutes. Where you Israelites at? Because I posted in all y'all groups. Don't come on the channel talking crap and whatnot because you were scared to show y'all asses up, man, and debate me. Because you know what I'm saying is the truth. And the account of Superman, when I broke down the account of Superman, I said in the first Superman movie, notice when Superman was going through the ice and things like that. Notice when he went to Alaska, which was really Antarctica, they showed him in that cold climate region. I think it was supposed to be Alaska, but really Antarctica. He had a beard on his face. He had a full-on beard on his face like an Israelite. Because I broke it down that Superman was actually a Jew. The character Superman was supposed to be a Jew, right? He had the full-on beard on his face like a Hasidic Jew, right, when he was crossing over the icy wilderness. Then when he got to his fortress of solitude where he started to build his city, right? He threw the crystal into the water, and it started to build his city, his fortress of solitude, which was really representing the pyramid and the new society and kingdom on earth that he was building. He got rid of the facial hair. He cleaned the beard off his face, and he was clean shaven from that point on. He was clean shaven from that point on. Because he became a Zionist. That was the point in this movie where Superman went from being a Jew, a traveling Jew, because I said the whole traveling Israelite thing or the Jewish thing is nothing but a traveling religion, a desert nomadic religion. That's why Superman was crossing the ice. He just didn't cross the sands like the Masons say, crossing the burning sands. He crossed the freezing ice to where he would go and set up his city. That's why in your narrative of Israel, Israel was wandering in the desert for how many years? 40 years. 40 years. That's why you guys had beards on your face. That's why you was wearing robes. You was a bunch of bums in the desert. That's really where that come from. You guys were bums in the desert. And you were trying to find a holy land to set up. You were really supposed to be setting up a new Egypt. But that's what Kal-El, Superman, ended up setting up in Alaska, a.k.a. Antarctica. That's what he ended up setting up. And he cleaned his face off, and he was a brand new man. And that's what you guys are supposed to do. But really, y'all still got that desert wilderness mentality. That's why you guys walking around out here in the wilderness of North America, still working for the white man, still got a slave mentality. You understand? You guys sitting up here talking, you got to wear hair on your face because the Most High told you to put hair on your face. That's a lie, man. That's some men told you to do that. Ain't no God, no sky, no Most High, no Creator told you to wear no beard on your face. That's a damn lie. And most of you guys get lineups and shape-ups, so you break your own laws. I seen you guys with lineups and shape-ups. You said, why would a God care if you gave yourself a shape-up? You lined up your hair. Why would a God care about that? You mean to tell me with all the things that your God, Yahweh Shai, is supposed to be concerned with, the rotation of the planet around the sun, vegetation and life, he care about you niggas getting lineups? He got to write a law about you niggas getting lineups and shaving a beard off your face. He care about that. Your Lord care about grooming, huh? He don't care about the homosexuals on the planet. He ain't going to destroy all the faggots off the planet. He care more about you guys getting lineups, right? Because your God allowed homosexuals and lesbians to be on the planet if you didn't know. Yo, Howard shot. He don't care about that. He care about, he let them be on the planet, but he more or less care about you guys getting lineups and shape-ups. Right? And he allowed the so-called Egyptians to be in power for thousands of years. And the kingdoms that came before Babylon, all these other places being in power for thousands of years. Give me a break, man. You guys are full of crap. And you guys ain't sure. So let me go ahead and answer these questions before we get out of here. We got 5 minutes. Why do the Israelites claim that the ancient Egyptians are tribal African? Because the Israelites want to have this false narrative that they are the persecuted people and that they are always being enslaved and persecuted. But in the end of the time, the Most High, their God, Yahweh, going to come and raise them out of their state and put them in on a pedestal of power. So they would rather have push this false narrative of being downtrodden and people going into bondage under evil, wicked people, ruling class people, same way they push that in this society today. But yet you guys indulge in the things in this society. You ain't going to go live in Israel, or you're not going to go live in a place where you could build up an Israelite culture, because there's certain countries you can go and live in, like Ghana, where you can go and practice your Israelite community and your Israelite church. But you niggas ain't leaving America. You ain't leaving the harlot, as you say, because you niggas having fun with the harlot, a.k.a. America. Y'all full of crap. Who are the real ancient Egyptians? Who are the descendants of the real ancient Egyptians, the Kemites? Us here in America today. Us here in America today. And some of our people over in the ancient world, in Egypt and whatnot, our people scattered all over South America, the Olmecs, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, or a.k.a. the Kemites. We all the same people, man. You understand that? All the same people, the pyramid culture, the people of the serpent, the pyramid culture, the people of Amun, all over the world, man. You see that serpent, you see those pyramids everywhere, all over the planet, not just in the Middle East, not just in America, all over the place, man. We put those there, and in Europe, everywhere. How do we know the so-called tribal Africans aren't ancient Egyptians? Like I said, the tribal Africans, the so-called Neolithic, as you call them, the Neolithic people, or the people of the Nile, the BB buckshot tribal Africans with the scars on their face that do the tribal scarifications and their rituals, where are they pyramids at? Where are they pyramids at? How do you live like a certain way for thousands of years, but you didn't take none of that culture with you? And these guys were never put into slavery, as you guys point out. They were never put into slavery. Barack Obama and them people who you would call the Neolithic Africans are your tribal Africans. They were never in slavery. Why they ain't built no pyramids in their countries? How come they ain't following out that culture if they supposedly come from it? That's thousands of years old. Why don't you guys call in and answer that? Where did the culture go? Why aren't they building pyramids? They tribal people. Why are they living in little huts and cutting their face and doing all that bugged out stuff they did not do in Egypt? That's a lie y'all telling, man. Just like that lie you talking about the Egyptians had sex with alligators. Y'all say all kind of foul and wild things, man. Yet you claim you supposed to be men of the Lord and you telling lies like that? You guys are ridiculous, man. And you guys got demons all over y'all. How do we know the so-called tribal Africans aren't okay? Are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians in America? Yes, they are, and in South America, and over there in Egypt. You see us, you see the afros, you see the wavy hair, you see the braids, you see the curly hair, you see us there, you see the bronze skin of different shades and complexions from beige all the way up to dark bronze, man. That's us. Don't let these Israelites lie to you and teach you that nonsense, man. And some of you young Israelites starting to wake up, man, and you starting to see that your elders is lying to you, man. Who put the ancient Egyptians in power? Amen. The true Lord, the Most High, put us in power. Put us in the ancient Egyptians, put us in the Sumerians, and put us in
black race to the white race. I'm the black race to the white race. Students public, I'm MENTELLECT. Black race to the white race. If it's hell, I'm in, then it's hell us. They tried everything just to spell us. Fed us religion, gave us fake gods. Through all of that, we beat the odds. Now we coming together under one flag. Colors red, gold, and blue. Superman, Superwoman, that's me and you. The infinite capabilities that we can